Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be doing a review on PrismaColor products. PrismaColor sent me a brush tip liner in Prisma Premier line. It looks like this. They sent me a Nupastel in Carmine, which was this one, but I went ahead and I used a more pink tone to stay in the pink family here. So I used this color, which is 234P. They also sent me a Prismacolor marker in processed red. And they sent me two different Prismacolor colored pencils, but I used one that I already had in processed red to, again, stay in this pink tone family. So this was the one that I used. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start the review with the Prismacolor colored pencils. Up here on the top, this paper, this white paper is printer paper, so copy paper, and then this paper, this cream colored paper down here, is my Canson multimedia paper out of my sketchbook. So you can see the difference in the paper. I chose printer paper because that's something readily available to young people who are learning how to draw and might not have access to more expensive types of papers, marker papers, etc. So that's why I chose this one. And then I chose a multimedia paper because, again, that's another easily accessible sketchbook paper that upcoming artists, aspiring artists would use instead of specific papers for a specific medium. So I use multimedia and copy paper. Okay, so here we go. Up here on the printer paper, I did the processed red, and I used to blend it out a white Prismacolor. So these were the two that I used up here on this printer paper, and I lined half of the cupcake. So I lined from here to here first, and then I colored the entire cupcake. The color went down okay, not as smooth as you would think for a printer paper because printer paper is so smooth. And then after I had colored the entire thing, I went over it with the Prismacolor liner up here at the top, and I waited probably 10 minutes, and I ran my finger through it, and it smeared, as you can see right here. So you can't line on both of them. It happens on both of them, on the multimedia paper and the printer paper. You can't line the Prismacolor colored pencils. I rarely use these. I do have some. I don't have a lot, but I do use them once in a while. I stay away from using Prismacolor or any color pencil particular because it's too much strain on my hand. Just from coloring this cupcake and this cupcake, my wrist was already fatigued and sore, but I do have sore wrists. So I stay away from using colored pencils. So if you have bad wrists or you don't want that strain on your wrist, that would be something to consider. And you definitely can't line on top of them. It did leave a waxy residue on the tip of my liner that I had to clean off. So that will wear out your liner after time. So definitely, if you line your drawings, line them first and then use the colored pencils on top. So I would recommend them definitely to anybody who likes using colored pencils. They are good. They do leave a wax. They are wax based, so they leave that wax bloom sheen. Let me show you. See how it's shiny? It does leave a sheen because they are wax based, so you take that into consideration as well. Okay, moving on to the Nupastels. So for this one, I think it came out really pretty on both. It came out really pretty on the printer paper. A little streaky in areas that would have been blended out more if the paper had just a bit of texture to grab the pigment. But still, overall, it came out pretty, that the color really shone through. And then down here, it came out very saturated. Again, very pretty, really saturated. And the thing with the Nupastels that I like is you can take your eraser. Let me clean my eraser off. You can take your eraser and you can just pick up the pigment. So if you want to highlight, it's a nice subtle highlight too that you can get. If it's too strong, you can just blend it out to make it, gradual, a gradual blend. That's what I like about that. With the Prismacolor pencils, it's going to be very hard, if almost impossible, to erase to get a highlight. So you have to leave areas for highlights on that one. I went ahead and I took my finger and I went to go smear on both of them, and the liner didn't smear, and I did do colored on top of the liner, and then on the other half of the cupcake I lined over the top. Okay, so as far as smearing goes, it didn't smear. Even on the printer paper, it smeared slightly here, but again, I think that's paper quality. But it didn't smear nowhere near as putting it on top of the colored pencils. What smeared the most was, of course, the pastel pigment, but it held quite well. The pigment held stuck into the paper quite well where I put it, as opposed to like the cheaper pastels. So I definitely recommend the Prismacolor Nupastels. They're amazing to work with. They're very saturated, very pigmented, easily blendable, and they are just so pretty. So rich in color, recommend these a lot. I love pastels, so I've been using the cheapies. Right, so down here is a little example. I use the cheap pastels. I get like 48 of these for $5 at Hobby Lobby, and they look like this. I've never had a complaint about these, ever. I've loved them. They've always been my favorite to use. I have a lot of them. Always really enjoyed these. But then when Prismacolor sent me the little package they did, and I received this one, and I was like, oh my god, it's a real red, because I have issues trying to find red in the cheap pastels, because this is what I normally get, and as you can see on camera, it looks pink if you compare the two next to each other. So a lot of the time when I need a red pastel, I have to really layer this, and this is what I get. And then this one is the Nupastel, and as you can see the difference between the two. Here, I'll lay them down so you can see. So for red, this was amazing. This actually made me buy a set of 36 Nupastels because I loved it so much. So here's that. Let me show you. So I can't recommend this one enough. So there are my Nupastels that I got. So if you enjoy pastel drawing, definitely recommend these. They're really great. They lay that color down, and the color is easily blended out. I use the Q-tip. You use your finger, and the pigment picks right up with an eraser if you need a highlight. So yeah, the liner, the Premier liner, worked really well on top of the Nupastel. It did not work at all very well on top of the cheap pastel. It was very streaky, left splotches, and didn't cover everything. And there was a chalky residue with this one, and with this one there was nothing left on the felt tip pen. Okay, so that's my review. So that's my review for the Nupastels. Definitely recommend that. Okay, next would be the Prismacolor markers. So I used processed red, and I used a colorless blender. This was my first time using Prismacolor marker that's an actual color. I've used the colorless blender before with colored pencils, so this was my first time using the actual colored marker. As far as me liking the markers, it's a learning curve. I'm used to Copic markers. I know this is nitpicky, I don't like how they roll off my desk. I got really annoying really fast. I'm used to my sketch markers to where if I set it down, it stays there. My desk is at an angle. I don't have a pencil stop, so that got annoying just for using these two colors. But again, that's, something you would get used to if you use them a lot. You'd understand that they rolled and you have something set up for that. They bled a lot. They bled a lot on the copy paper, and they bled a lot on the multimedia paper. So marker paper would probably be the best bet for these. I don't like these markers just from these ones. I know it's hard to judge a marker without having at least 2 to 3 of that shade to really get a good blend in, but just from using this, I didn't like it. I would need more colors to see if I can blend them and like them. It could be just because I'm really used to Copic markers. I've been using Copic markers for going on 4 years now. The liner worked really well with these markers. There was no bleeding, no smearing on both papers. There was a little bit of smearing on the liner on the copy paper, but again, that's paper quality, as opposed to, I think, the ink in the liner. The blender really doesn't blend. It kind of just, removes the marker color a little bit and makes it look like a softer edge. So they do bleed a lot more than Copic markers. I would buy a couple more to, you know, give it a real good chance, because I think as far as markers are concerned, having one color isn't going to determine whether you like it or not. You're going to have at least 4 reds to say, oh, I like this, because markers are all about the blending. So yeah, that's my review. I definitely, out of the items that PrismaColor sent me, my favorite by far would be the Nupastel. It was amazing. I love it. Loved it so much that I ordered a whole set. If you guys are interested in any other reviews or tutorials, let me know. I'm thinking about doing a pastel review between, you know, cheap pastels and the Nupastels, so that you guys can see a really good comparison on the two and how they work. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them down below for me. Thumbs up the video if you liked it, if it was helpful in any way. And hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see more art videos and reviews. I put them out as often as I can. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye, guys.